When stand-up comic Sean McAleavey isn't complaining about the price of pints. That's just a typical Newry guy there, isn't it? You know?
I'm living in Belfast now and I'm paying £5.50 for a pint of Guinness and I can't even enjoy the thing. Even though it's lovely, but the price would just sicken you.
He is taking the comedy scene by storm. Having only started a few years ago, he now regularly plays venues up and down the country.
Welcome to Newry. Is that an ATM machine that's being dragged?
With a well-established weekly podcast under his belt, Sean's profile continues to grow. Find out the story behind Sean's success on this latest edition of The Scene. Right, so Sean, you've a couple of big nights in December. Tell us about that.
Yep, I've got. I'm bringing a Christmas comedy show to Newry. I'm very excited about it. It's Connor Keith's headline in Newry Shamrocks New Social Club. We had a night in there a couple of months ago. I brought my first sort of like solo headline show in there. Took a risk because like hopefully people will come. Sold it out, about 100 people, all down in the bar. And I was like, you know what, we'll do another one. People in Newry love a laugh.
Yeah, so you've done one already, and it already sold out.
It sold out, yeah. That was back in June or July. It was a flyer. It was unreal, and I was like, "This is so good. We need to do something else." But I couldn't be bothered putting together an hour 45 minutes of comedy, so we'll book other people.
So that was your own show, was it?
That was my own show, yeah. So it was like a combination of like a year and a half's work of like getting into stand up. It was like I think I titled it "Sean McAleavey, All Work No Progress" was the name of the show. So I sort of like headlined it, MC'd it for a wee bit, had a few acts on in between, and then I came out and did about, I think it was like 30 to 40 minutes or something like that.
The Shamrocks would be a great spot for that. Now, I've only been in the Shamrocks a few times, and any time I've been in, I can't remember any of it and what it looks like. It's always been some mad birthday, and, you know, I can't, but I just know that the clientele, the audience, you know, it suits stand-up comedy, doesn't it? A place like that.
Yeah, well, the thing was, I didn't realize they completely renovated out the bar. It's all new looking. It's perfectly lined up. It hasn't got that dark old feel. That like it's really, really good venue now. Like I would almost say, like you can put anything in there now.
And then social clubs have the right, like GAA clubs or football clubs or whatever. They have the right vibe, haven't they? They've got the right, you know, they've got the right. People are there for a bit of crack. There's no, you know, there's no partying or raving going on. No. You know what I mean? It's you've got the right audience in places like that for stand-up comedy, haven't you?
Yeah, and then I was worried as well that you're going to have like just the GAA crowd down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it wasn't. We got a whole mix of people in. They came in, and also the other thing that you can't beat about, like especially in Newry social club, pints are cheap and they're class.
That's just a typical Newry guy there, isn't it? You know,
I'm living in Belfast now and I'm paying £5.50 for a pint of Guinness and I can't even enjoy the thing, even though it's lovely. But the price would just sicken you.
Kills you. Once you go over that threshold, you know, when you go over once it's more than a note, that kills you, doesn't it? And then you say if you even pay for that with a tenner, it's like you're going to get a load of shrapnel. You're going to get a load of change. Yeah. It upsets the whole balance of your money configuration, doesn't it? Like,
well, it's like I moved to Belfast, and the first question you get asked, it's the same when you go anywhere, even if you go on holiday, Tenerife, wherever you go. First question everyone asks you, how much was a pint?
Yeah. That's the Newry thing, isn't it? How much is a pint? Funny enough, my granddad asked me, how much is a pint now? And I lied to him because, it's about £3 or something. Yeah. Because I know if I tell him the right answer, he'll probably faint or something, you know, and have a seizure.
I went to the Catholic Working Man's, I think it was last Christmas, and I took my mates from Belfast. I think we got 3 pints and change from a tenner. And I was like, what sort of black magic is this?
I know. This Catholic Working Men's is, you wonder, how are they doing this? Yeah. How are they staying open, profitable, and serving great pints and being that cheap? It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, I actually heard that apparently they tried to put the price of a pint up at one stage. It was like from it might have been like $2.50 to $2.70, and then they burnt the place down to the ground.
Yeah, well, there is rats. I remember the time I was working in the bars and the pints were $2.50, and I always remember the times when they went up like by about 10p, and it was all anybody talked about in the bar that whole weekend. You know what I mean? Yeah. The pints are going up, but the wages aren't going up. You know, they'll shout like that.
I've heard people before used to go to mass, and on a Sunday you'd pray, let the price of the pint come back down by next week.
Aye. Well, you can see why like a lot of people just stay in the house now and have carryouts and all, you know, all that sort of thing. Well, it sort of died a bit, that culture, isn't it? The pub culture. But things like what you do and what stand-up does is it gives people a reason to go out, have a bit of crack, and leave the house, doesn't it?
Well, this is the thing as well. I think what people don't realise is especially with stand-up comedy, you kind of get that, like, you don't need to drink it. You don't need to get plastered to have a good time because there's no pressure on you to do anything. Just sit, relax, enjoy. The guys on the stage know what they're doing. You know, they're funny. Just let them do a thing.
For the fact that you sold out a night in Newry, though, it shows how big stand-up comedy's getting, not just in Belfast, but across the country, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, 100%. And especially I think it's important, like, up in Belfast, you have a booming scene, of course you do, like, you know, you have so many people up here, but down in Newry, people are now venturing out going, well, what else can we do? Because there only is so many things you can do, and now that you're getting these wee flavours of, like, a comedy night, or I'm trying to think if people are putting live music in a bar, like, it's good to get out of the house and see that stuff. I think we don't give ourselves enough credit here. We're more cultured than we kind of let on at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Ireland is deep ingrained in culture, and you know, people here just love having a bit of crack. You know, and it's full of characters, isn't it? You know what I mean?
The hardest thing about doing stand up here is everyone in the audience looks at you and go, probably funnier than him. Everybody here does that thing, being like. You really have to win them over at the start.
But everybody's like that with everything, and you know, even I'm making my videos or whatever, and someone will go to me, really hear this one, you know what I mean? And they'll tell me this story. There's this taxi driver, man, you love this, you know. Everybody has that, you know, where they think they've seen the funniest thing in the world, or their story is the undiscovered find of the century. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we did the Newry show, and like the one I did was, I couldn't have asked for a better night. The audience was brilliant, all the acts support was brilliant. I had a great time, it was fantastic. And at the end of the night, I turned everything off, said thanks very much, I'm away here, and walked off. Stand ovation, the crowd were loving it. Like, it's brilliant. Sat down, got myself a pint, and someone came over and tapped me on the shoulder. He goes, do you mind if our man Mickey gets up and does a wee bit now? It's like, what? It's just like he's a couple of yarns he wants to tell. And I was like, I stood there going like,
I would have said definitely.
I goes, yeah, because in my head I'm like, you think it's easy? Do you get up there? Do you
Absolutely.
know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. There's people there that in real life, you know, life off the stage, and they're the life and soul of a party. And I've seen it. They're a laugh. They're just so naturally funny. And I've seen them stand in front of people and get up in front of a crowd and they freeze. They think it's going to be easy. And then they get up and go, oh, fuck, what am I going to say?
Yeah. Well, the worst part of this one was he came over and they asked me, goes, can we get him on? I goes, right, give it 5 minutes, you know, and we'll put him on here. And he got back up and I was just rubbing my hands and like, right, he's going to die here. And he got back up, said the first joke. Cunt was doing class. I was raging. I was like almost being like, right, I'm gonna turn the mic off. I can't have any of this. He's making a mockery.
Upstaging you.
Yeah. I should book him actually for the next one in Christmas time.
I suppose when you get into one of them places and if that person's popular amongst the crowd, you know, you get into a social club or whatever, and you've got somebody who's a part of the furniture there, and they get up and do a bit of. I remember, like in Newry, McCoy's bar this night on. Wayne Mardell, the darts player, was over, and in Newry that's become a thing now. You know, darts players coming over, but I think he was one of the first ones I remember. I think Phil Taylor might have come over the odd time, but Wayne Mardell was there, and Curly Kane, who was like, you know, one of the locals that's in McCoy's all the time. Everyone knows he's just one of them top characters that everyone knows, and Curly Kane started taking the piss out of Wayne Mardell, and Mardell was giving it back to him, and you know, everyone was just laughing, and it was one of them. It was just at the time where people had phones that you could video, and that them videos were just going everywhere. Curly Kane giving it to Wayne Mardell, you know. But it's got that Newry's got that vibe about it, doesn't it? It's got characters that, you know, and if you get them in their right environment, they just, you know, it's like watching stand-up comedy, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And like, there's no harm to anyone from Newry. That's what I like about it. Like, everyone can get a wee bit of jib and stuff. Like, I remember starting stand-up, people giving the whole class, like, who does he think he is?
Yes.
And you get that weird sort of small town mentality where, like, people get this perception where small town mentality is like, you come from a small town, people all talk about it, it's all bad whispers and you can't say nothing about people. But I've actually found it's gone the other way, where the wee whispers go around and the next thing, everyone's like, I'm going to go to the show, and next one that comes out. And then wee whispers are almost the best form of marketing you can almost get.
Well, funny enough, like with any GAA clubs I've seen, GAA clubs are great places to put events and do's on, aren't they? Because the reach of them places is massive.
Yeah.
So anytime they've got a night on, the places are normally packed out, aren't they? Like,
yeah, definitely. And this is the thing as well. Like, I feel when people see a GAA club's name, it goes, well, I can't go to that. Can't go to that because it's their club. Not at all. Like with the events we put on, because it's so open and friendly, and you're bringing in acts that have nothing, they don't even know what the football club is, then everyone's welcome, which I think is a great thing.
Tell us about the night then. What would people expect?
So we've actually sold out pretty much half the tickets already as this is coming out. So snap them up quickly, because what we'll have is we've got a headliner. So that's someone will do about 30-40 minutes. A guy called Connor Keys is coming on.
Right.
Absolutely fantastic comedian. He's been you can check him out. He's done work on UTV there recently. He's been on TV. He's a fantastic comedian. Then I'm going to MC the night, so talking crap about Newry, all the crack, you're a cunt, blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff. And then we'll have a few feature acts as well. Leanne McCooey's going to be on, town legend, is going to be on.
Well, she's always very popular in Newry, isn't she? She had a huge following with all her videos or live streams from her shop and stuff like that. You know, so she's got a really popular following, hasn't she?
Yeah, she's absolutely brilliant. She runs another comedy club in the town, and it's fantastic. If people haven't go to it as well, because that's what I think when you're like, we've so much room for comedy. It's not that I'd ever go, well, I'm up against her comedy club. Go to all of them because they're class. And if you went to one, you'd want to go to another one. But the one we're running, it's going to be like 3-4 acts. We'll typically I'll do a bit of MC and chatting, 1 or 2 acts, break, and then we'll bring on our headliner. And they're typically the most established act, the person that you're sort of paying the money most to go see. And it's probably start around 8, away by 10, because people want to sit on, have the crack. You can do that as well. If you want to go home nice and early, you can do that. It's I'm telling you, if you've never been to a comedy club, or if you've been to ones up in Belfast before, get down, because it's.
But it's great that it's growing in Newry, isn't it? Because you know, Newry, it's a struggle sometimes to get things on. You know, pubs struggle during the week and all, but you know, those comedy nights, they seem to be taking off, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm hoping if off the back of this it goes well, we'll be able to build more stuff. We'll be able to get more guys down, because I'm sure there's people listening to this that listen to all the top podcasts in around Northern Ireland with the comedian guys, and they love Newry. Anytime I've talked to them, they're like, it's a great venue, it's a great place. I hope they can get more gigs in there. I hope you can get more people going, because the people are great crack and we love doing it, which, let me tell you something, they don't say that about every place in Northern Ireland. So,
talking about you and your stand-up, and like, where did it all start? Why did you want to get into it?
It's a good question. It's one that I don't think I can pinpoint this, or a lot of people say comedians come from, you know, trauma or backgrounds like that, like good family, none of that sort of carrying on. Like, I just always thought in school, loved to laugh, bit of crack. I've played Gaelic football from no age till about 21 or so, like all that sort of crack. And then I sort of gave up football and goes, well, what now? What can I do that's next? And I think stand-up was always something I wanted to try. And over lockdown, I was just obsessed with trying it all and getting myself out there and sort of getting a voice for myself, because I've always played team sports. I've always sort of sank into the background and I'd done anything. And yeah, I've just took inspiration from a lot of them American guys, like Joe Rogan podcast and Brian Callens of the world and Shane Gill says, like, they're all putting out content. And I give this a go. I something flicked in my head where it just went, you know what? Even if this doesn't go well, try it once. I always had that approach. If it was chatting up a girl on the night out, goes, try it. You never know. You might get slapped in the face, you might get a kiss. At least you have an answer.
That's a great approach to life, isn't it?
Well, the worst case scenario is what? You're going to end up where you were.
Yeah, exactly.
You might have maybe a wee bit of second-hand embarrassment if you're going to be completely honest about it or whatever. But in the end of the day, if my first gig didn't go well, about 3 people saw it, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, I think people have a fear of other people's opinions, haven't they? You know, they fear what are other people going to think, you know? Yeah. And I think if you want to get into stand-up comedy, that's something you can't have, really, isn't it? Now, you know, you've just got to... any sort of flack or criticism, you've sort of got to have a thick skin for it, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, I did the classic thing of, well, in stand-up, you have mainly what people do is they'll do their first ever gig and they'll invite all their friends down. Like, well, I'm going to try this, which I just think is absolute ludicrous. Inviting all your mates down for your first one, because you have no control about how it's going to go, if it's going to be any good or any good. I did the opposite. I got booked for a wee gig, and I was living in the Holy Lands at the time with my friends, and I just got up and I was leaving the house slyly, and I didn't say anything to them. And they just stopped me and they goes, where are you going? This was on like a Monday night. I was like, I'm just nipping out here for you, but I'll be back in like an hour or 2. But I was going to this gig that I'd booked. And they goes, tell us where you're going, because you never go anywhere on your own. And we don't trust you. I need to know. And does your missus know where you're going? And I goes, yeah, she does. And then they text her in the meantime. And she goes, he hasn't said he's going anywhere night. So they had this whole plot of where I was going, what I was actually doing. And I had to come clean. Goes, look, I'm doing a stand-up gig tonight. Going to give it a go. Always something I wanted to do. And then goes, can we go? I It's like, absolutely not.
Yeah,
there's no way.
Yeah.
So,
some people do that, they invite their friends the first, but all that does then is just put the pressure on, doesn't it?
Well, this was the thing, and I was like, I'll tell you what, I'll make you the deal. You can come, but you aren't allowed to heckle, you aren't allowed to do anything weird. You just go sit in the audience, and here's the deal with me. I go, see if this is shite, absolutely shite. Tell me, and we'll never speak of it again. See if it goes remotely good, or you think I have a chance at this. Be honest with me. I don't mind. Just let me know. I need good, honest feedback. And they're like, right, okay. And it was a good thing they came because there was 4 audience members there, and there were 2 of them. So without them, the show went ahead in the end. And I came off stage, and I remember there was one woman actually who was absolutely blitzed in the front row. I can't remember what I talked about on the first night of my first gig, but I can't remember what I talked about. She had the loudest drunken laugh ever. And whenever I heard that first laugh, it didn't matter what it was. I was just like, we're doing it. It's happening. We're going to keep her going here. And then I came off stage and goes, and what did you think? And he goes, you know what? It wasn't shite. And it might still be to this day the nicest thing they've ever said
that's
to me.
brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, all you want to do is not die. That's kind of the gist. You just want to see is their ground just did it, enjoy it, and as soon as I came off stage, I was just absolutely hooked at it, and that was the snowball effect. Then just got.
Well, if you're hooked after the first one, that's a good sign. I remember, like stand-up in Newry, it's a new thing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I remember a comedy night in the Tall Man. It was upstairs in the Tall Man, and there's a guy on stage, but there was a heckler in the front row, and some old doll, and she was rubbered. But when she started heckling him, it was funny. Mm-hmm. But she just kept doing it the whole way through this act, and she just ended up railroading the act, and they had to get rid of her and all. And your guy was just, it just took him off course. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he tried to deal with the heckler, and he was okay for the first 2 or 3, but she just kept going and kept going and kept going.
I've been to the arena shows here where there's been hecklers in the front row and stuff like that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like the SSE arena sold out, and I think it was one of the Colin Geddes ones actually. I went on my own just to watch, and someone in the front row was heckling, and he was like, eventually he goes, we need to get this guy out of here. And the security had to come over and escort him out of the arena. And the whole arena, 99 times out of 100, the whole arena will be on your side because you're ruining the show for everyone else. You're heckling thinking, I'm adding a bit of crack, but it gets to that stage where it's just annoying. People want you to shut up.
Yeah.
So they escorted I think it was a fella out. And then the best moment was a guy from like the back row, like I don't know how you could see the stage, jumped out, and you just see him run down the whole way and then just sit in your man's seat in the front row. I was like, that's incredible. Again, I think Colin was just like, see if you speak, you're going fucking with him. Boy, he bought like a £12 ticket and ended up getting right up the front. It was class.
That is brilliant. But it just shows you, like, those guys doing SSE Arena now, it's mental, isn't it?
It's like, I think the thing is though as well, from here, it's like people don't believe you what's happening. See, if you're on the scene here, like I kind of talk about it as if it's normal, but you need reminded. Sound like, a place where like an ice hockey team plays is mind-boggling.
It's crazy.
Like you tell, like even the established comedians over in England and all, they're like, what's happening over in that we've seen over in Northern Ireland? You're like, your man there's doing 10 nights in the Grand Opera House.
Yeah.
Like, what? There's play productions that don't do 10 nights in the Grand Opera House, and this one guy's doing it. It's absolutely madness.
Yeah, and it all comes from an online following and the power of social media. It's insane, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Social media used to be this thing where people go, oh, it's a communication device and whatever, but it's so much bigger than that now, isn't it? It's like taking over media consumption, isn't it?
It's a business. That's what it completely is now. Like if you're posting Facebook pictures of your kids going to school, I'm happy for you, well done. But like everything that now be posted, if you're not a fitness person or a comedian or promoting movies, or I don't know what else there is on social media anymore. Like I remember used to sit in maybe a Sunday morning and everyone post pictures from their night out on the Saturday night and all, and you'd get a gawk at who was out and who was standing beside who, and you'd get an interest of the world and who might have been dating who. None of that anymore. Everything's now selling you something or promoting something or directing you towards.
Well, I think, and then
purchase.
You can find a niche where I think it's important to, if you're making content like those guys with the podcast and all are doing, is they're not constantly just promoting what they're doing.
But you're not.
Yeah, but you're bringing the audience value. I think that comes before the promotion. You've got to entertain them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of brands have missed the mark there. Big corporate brands just see social media as like the television, and they'll just put an advert out. Yeah. Buy this Kit Kat, buy these these
the JML Super Mop.
Yeah. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas engaging the audience and entertaining them, and because audiences don't want to look at adverts.
No,
you know what I mean. And for them to look at one of your adverts, you've got to provide them value first, really. And that's where the podcast come in, isn't it? Like, you've got an hour podcast, 59 minutes of it is entertainment, and then you've got a 1 minute or 30-second thing where you set something up that pays for the podcast effectively.
Yeah, and I think the deal we do a lot is sort of we try to make it as entertaining as possible. Like our sponsors, like the food places sponsors, you don't want to sit there and go buy their food and eat their grub. Like, you're trying to make it entertaining and go, look, this is class. I eat it. I'm a mess when I eat it. It's good crack. You get delivered to your door. I'm naked. It's all good crack. Do you know? Like,
you could do like a wee chef's corner thing. Or you could make wee chip buddies every week or show what you can do.
Showing the true Newryisms there. Chip buddy, salt and vinegar, a red sauce in your chip buddy.
Red sauce in my chip buddy. Yes. Yeah. And salt and vinegar.
Yeah. You have
vinegar.
What are we, monsters here?
Vinegar first, and salt, and then the red sauce spread on the butter part of the bread.
And are you cutting them into triangles, or are you doing the squares?
Oh, I'm squares. Yeah.
I think triangles taste better.
So tell us about your podcast. Your podcast is Are We Podcast. When can people see it?
So RE Podcast is on YouTube, Spotify. It's myself and two other comedians at my level, Pete Giff and Kieran Franco. They're absolutely hilarious. They're mates I've made only through stand-up comedy. Wouldn't know them otherwise. And release it every single Tuesday, 6 a.m. There's probably about, do you know what? Actually, episode number 70 is out this week. So 70.
70?
Yeah.
I remember when you guys started that, and I seen Pete posting on Twitter starting a podcast, and it doesn't feel like 70 weeks ago.
No. I mean, editing it and stuff like that does feel a bit like 70 weeks. But no, it really doesn't. And what I love about it is I didn't realize people did this with podcasts. People go back to the very start. So people came up to us and said stuff about, oh, you said in episode 3. And I was like, mate, that was over a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
I haven't a clue what I said.
Funny enough, the podcast I really enjoy. I do go back to the very start and I listen to Mr. Tarantino want to do that one. I really like Bad Friends. You ever listen to that? It's brilliant. Yeah. It's really, really
Andrew
good.
Santino, isn't it? And
Bobby Lee.
Yeah.
The two of them are absolutely hilarious. So what day is it out again?
Every single Tuesdays. We drop those out. Yeah. We just chat about it. It's kind of I think the jux of the podcast is kind of like you get to see these three guys meant doing stand-up comedy. Like doing episode 1, we're asking each other questions that, like, if you were schoolmates, you wouldn't knew about each other. So you get to see that sort of like friendship build the whole way through it. Us kind of developing as stand-ups. Like episode 1, we talk about like what would be your dream gig, and we're both saying we're saying like doing the Empire in Belfast or Lavery's and stuff like that. Like, and now we've all been booked a few times to do those gigs and stuff like that. So you get to see the whole evolution of it, which I think is real nice value.
You probably if you're from Newry.
Yeah. Or Blaney's, let's be controversial.
Or an outdoor Hill Street.
Yeah.
Just the whole of Hill Street packed and you on a big stage.
That big screen beside the cathedral. We'll get it back out. Yeah. We'll wheel that back out again.
You never know with stand-up, it's got so big. So what's the benefits then for when you're a stand-up comedian and you're doing a podcast? How does that benefit? Why do stand-up comedians do that, and why does it fit so well for comedy?
I think it gives you just a glimpse into who you're going to go see. Because how else would you ever trust a guy to go, look, buy tickets to my show, it's going to be class, you know nothing about me, you have no connection with that guy whatsoever. So I think this gives people an insight. And with stand-up comedians, what tends to happen is, I know they write their material and they're quite posh, but they're quite funny people. They're outgoing, energetic, they put themselves in weird situations, and just gives you that chance to bond with them. And what's weird about podcasting is, and things like that, is because it's such a real medium and you don't need to put on an act during it, you can just be yourself. People feel like they know you. People come up to me and go, this might sound weird, mate, and all, but like I feel like I know you and you don't even know my name, which is weird. Yeah. But please stop doing that. I find that very weird. People that do it, and it's not that it happens everywhere, but like, so people come up to you and they call you by your name. Yeah, people go up to you and go, well, Sean, and that you don't like this. Well, it's not that I don't like it. It's like, it's weird. It's weird for someone to know so much information about you and you've never talked to them. Well, it's weird. Like when people come up to me, they call me Taxi Joe. They don't call me, it's like somebody saying, oh, you're by Gino and all. Oh, who's that there? Oh, Taxi Joe. Oh, yeah, Taxi Joe. So I'm Taxi Joe, effectively. I'm not Gino. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So when people shout that at you, it's because it's not my name, it's not as weird, I suppose. Yeah. Well, my brothers and sisters, not that I'm in any way remotely trying to say I'm famous here, but I've always been, probably out of the family, I've 2 sisters and a younger brother, probably the one people would know a bit more. You always have that sort of dynamic in a family. And my nickname has always been Smack growing up. Just a mixture between Sean and Mac. don't sell drugs. All right, that's not
Right,
that's not my
right,
game.
right,
It's not my
right.
dealer name.
I was going to ask, but yeah, you cleared it up.
Yeah, I used to, but not anymore. I've cleaned that segment up, and my brothers and sisters will get like smacks wee brother, smacks wee sister, and you're like, no, please stop doing that. I don't want that at all. Like they're their own people, sort of thing.
So, tell us again. Sorry, the gig that you're having in Newry Shamrocks. What date and where specifically can people get the tickets?
So it's the 16th of December, so 9 days before Christmas. It's actually my birthday that day, so
Wow.
yeah, how self-centered of me.
There you go. So yeah, I see what you're doing now. You're putting a big gig on the 16th. So you're going to MC it, and then everybody that's going there knows it's your birthday. So you're just going to get like 100 pints bought for you that night.
A big cake from the Shelburne as well. That's kind of what I really want. I like that one with the cream and the strawberry jam. If anyone's getting that, that'll be lovely. So that's on, and then if you want to get tickets, you can get them on Eventbrite. The tickets are £10.
Eventbrite is brilliant, isn't it? We done our tickets last year on Eventbrite, and it's brilliant. It's so easy. And you know what the best thing about it was too, when we put our thing out, was the weather was really bad the nights we were having it, and there was a bit of COVID going around and stuff, and there's loads of refunds, but then people buying the ones that were refunded and all. So if anybody does buy a ticket to that, and let's say you can't go, it's very flexible, that platform, isn't it, for things like that?
It's great because it works both ways. It reassures us, right, there's people coming to this thing. There's going to be, and then on the other side of it, with the comedy events, because they're so popular, we don't necessarily need to worry about that. It's the other side of it of going, we don't want to turn people away at the door. You want people standing, like, at least with the tickets we can limit. There's the thing with comedy, you don't want to stand on your feet, you don't want to be restless, you want to be comfortable in your seat, know where you're sitting, so we can control exactly where everyone's going to go and stuff, and make you enjoy the experience as much as possible. And that's the glory of Eventbrite. They just let you have everything sorted. Like if you're buying the traditional form of going up at the shop window, buying the ticket and stuff like that, like, don't need to worry about any of that stuff. It's great.
It's a fantastic website, very easy to use, so you can search for your event.
Yeah, if you just look up Newry Comedy, it'll come up.
Brilliant. And then this leads us nicely into, so we're talking about the podcast there, and you've also got a live podcast coming up, haven't you?
Yep.
Around the same time, isn't it?
It's the Tuesday before, actually, yeah. So we've planned that we're going to do a live podcast. A couple of people have asked, like last year we did sort of like a Christmas staff do. It was just me and the boys for the podcast, and a couple of people were like, that would have been great crack to be a part of. Like, we'd love to have watched that. So we thought this year, do you know what? We've got a great venue in Belfast, Madden's Bar. We do like a comedy club out of there normally, and we go like on the Tuesday night running up to Christmas, we'll do like a wee staff do. All the comedians that normally come down, they can come down. People can buy tickets for it. It'll be me and the boys talking. Not just the usual sort of like our sit down. We'll plan games, and maybe we're going to take some of the ideas you see on TV shows, like What I Lie to You and stuff like that, incorporate that into the show. Different segments.
Secret Santa plan. There's karaoke.
Secret Santa planned. Kieran's going to do a wee bit of karaoke first. He lost a bet during the year. We're going to have a wee special guest maybe drop in to sing with him that people might know. Santa Claus himself might drop in. Who knows?
Brilliant.
So we've loads of plans for it. We're just really excited because we've seen all these other guys have been doing like big live podcasts. And like, people said this, goes, why aren't you doing one? And goes, I don't. It's that humility thing. It's like, I don't think people want to go, and then they're like, I'd go, and you're like, right, we'll give it a go.
Absolutely. And again, it's another thing that's proven very popular, isn't it? Live podcasts, and would you record that like and have that going out as an episode?
Yeah, I think we probably will. We're going to get like a sound guy, and we're going to get it videoed properly and stuff like that. And then a lot of people like to put out through Patreon and stuff like that and sell it that way. But I think we'll just put out live, let people see it. It'll be loads of crack. We just want people to see it, and you know, if people watch it and get a bit of enjoyment out of it, or a bit of entertainment out of it, perfect.
Yeah, and it's amazing how podcasts have really started to take off, isn't it? But you can see why they take off, in the sense that, you know, radio is so broad, but podcasting's specific and it's niche, and it's just fitted in so nicely with the comedy community, you know, in Northern Ireland, that you know, all these guys, they don't have radio shows, you know what I mean? Yeah. So podcasting and in so many different sectors, it doesn't matter what it is, gardening, filmmaking, artistry, there's podcasts for everything, isn't there?
Well, it's just unbelievable how on demand it is. It's like anything now, you just want to be able to pick it up and watch it at your own time. Like, there's some of the best radio shows, I'm sure, on 9 to 12 o'clock, but people can't see it because they might not be in their car, they don't have a radio handy on them. Like, I listen to my podcast during work, sitting in an office, or if I'm driving to a big long gig, I can stick something on, whether it's educational, whether it's comedy, whatever you're in the mood for. Because this is blasphemy, but I'm not a music person. I don't really like listening to music, but I'll always get value out of a podcast or a bit of entertainment. And you know what's great about them? It takes you out of your own wee world. It gives you a glimpse into someone else's world and how they're acting, and I think that is where I probably, to answer your question, that's probably where I got the motive to go do stand-up. I seen a glimpse into their world and what they were doing, and it gives you the opportunity to maybe travel and see the world and put joy in people's faces. But I would never have known that without listening to them podcasts or getting that glimpse into them. You'd never know this stuff about stand-up 20, 30 years ago, you know?
Yeah, and when you're doing stand-up, do you get nervous at all before you get up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big time. It's one of those ones where if you're not nervous, it's weird. You know, if you're not nervous, you're probably going to die because you need that wee bit of adrenaline. You need something to get you on stage to keep you going.
It sort of keeps you, nerves sometimes can keep you right, can't it? And keep you in check.
Yeah. No matter what it is, speaking in front of like a big, large room can be scary, but knowing the fact you have to make them laugh is terrifying. And knowing the fact there's, you know, people out there that might not find you funny, that you always have to have that doubt in your head. Because no matter how many gigs you do, you can be the best comedian in the world. You look around a room of maybe say you're doing 100 people in the room. You'll always focus on that one person that's not laughing, and that's the one you're like, yes, it's you bastard. Yeah. I need to get these 99. You're loving it, but see you, I ain't gonna get you. I'm gonna get you at some stage here.
Turn around and make faces at them or something.
Yeah. We did a show one time in the Black Box. It was like a concept show. So sometimes you get these different kind of like comedian shows that people put on, like gong shows where they'll gong you off. Funny stuff like that. This one was run by a guy called Fraser Robb, fantastic comedian. He runs it in the Black Box there in Belfast, and it's called Stoneface. And the whole concept of the show is there's an audience, but there's a camera directly on the audience member, front and center of the stage, so just facing you on the stage. And it doesn't matter if everyone else is laughing. If that person doesn't laugh, their face is on a big projector behind you. If they don't laugh, you lose the game. That's what it is. So your sole folks make them laugh, and they sit there. It might be a tenner. Yeah, they start out with like 60 quid, all in tenors. And every comedian that gets on, if you make them laugh, you get the tenner. But if you don't make them laugh, they keep the tenner. And I remember getting on, and the whole room was loving it, cracking up. And this woman in the front row didn't even blink. It's just raging.
Oh, brilliant.
And when I think it was 10 minutes, I couldn't crack her. Then the next guy went on, couldn't crack her. Next one went on. She walked out with 60 quid. She didn't laugh at anybody.
That's a fair few pints, isn't it?
That was, yeah. She did all right first off that day.
So with your live podcast, there'll be audience and participation and stuff like that?
In parts, yeah. It's not going to be like a heckle. We'll like open up like a Q&A sort of section. They can ask questions. We're going to have like a really cool segment where we'll have like, you know, podcast guest of the year awards. We're going to have cool parts where we're going to do, so with the comedy club that we actually run, we're going to have like, you know, the open micer of the year and stuff. People might be able to get up and do a wee set and stuff like that and tell jokes as well. So the audience will definitely be able to participate more, because we do like a fun part of the podcast where people write in questions and stuff like that, and people love just to get involved with it and stuff like that. So yeah, they'll definitely be able to chip in. And
it's you can get the tickets for it at Eventbrite as well, is that correct?
Yes, it's on there as well, and those tickets are £10 as well.
So that could be a messy night, couldn't it? Like, I mean, you've karaoke, you've all sorts of, you've Secret Santa, you've three agents on stage, you've Madden's does lovely Guinness.
You know what? Cheaper than a fiver as well. Or else
you're big into these fivers, aren't you?
I really am.
Anything over a fiver, it's just you don't sleep at night.
I don't even keep the 40p change. I give it to the barman, but that's not what it's about. Do you know what I mean? Just
it's the principle. Yeah, it's the principle.
Yeah. It's like when you sell something on Facebook ads and you haggle them down by a fiver. Never pay the full price on Facebook ads.
What's your process then when you're writing comedy?
So I'm a bad comedian in terms of writing. Like, I'm not very methodical with the process of like write out, you know, 2 A4 pages, get on stage and try it out. I'll go up now with the premise of an idea, a story that happened during the week. Very loose, very conversational, like how maybe me and you would sit and talk here. See if there's anything in it, and then I'd go away, put it down on a bit of paper and write it down. Because what I find with my stand-up comedy is as soon as I write something, it becomes a script. And as soon as it becomes a script, I say it like a script. And you lose that sort of natural nuance to how you're speaking and how you deliver. That's
a really good point. I find, right, when I'm watching stand-up comedians, say if I'm right or wrong or whatever, I find there's 2 different styles, and some are a combination of the two. And one of the styles is the real polished comedian, you know, that's got a routine that they have perfected and polished, you know, over the years. And then there's the buck agent, you know, someone who...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's the buck agent who gets on stage, has got a few ideas, and then now there's craft and polish to what they do, but they can go way off in tangents, and they like the spontaneous feel of of the whole aspect of it. And, there's people that combine those two elements. But you do see that. You do see some comedians that it's just from the start of the show to the end of the show, it just feels polished. And, like Alan Carr, his set feels very polished, doesn't it? Like,
yeah, no, definitely. And you know what? There's definite benefits to it. Just like you need to find what suits the individual comedian. Like, I just can't have fun when I know I've just completely word for word know what I'm going to say on stage. I like a bit of spontaneity on stage, something that comes to mind, and chatting to the audience. Like, I love that side of stand-up comedy. And what I realised very quickly was that if I'm not having fun on the stage, the audience aren't going to have fun on stage. And this is the pros and cons of the podcast world, as I talked about earlier. I was listening to all these comedians, American comedians, and the polished sets, and it was all written out, and it was so scripted. So I thought in my head, I need to do that, or I'm not going to be a comedian. And then, as you said, you find this other way of doing it, a way that works for you, and you actually end up having more fun. I mean, it sounds silly as a comedian, but you need to be having fun up there, in my opinion. But you need to be enjoying it.
You need to find what works for you, don't you? And it's in any creative process, you've, even with what I do, there's people say they do it this way, they do it that way, and those ways don't work for me. You've got to keep working at it until you find a way that works for you as a person, don't you, really? Because there's some people can't retain all that information. Let's say you learned a routine and you've got it all in your head and all. There's some people can't hold all that information when they get up on stage, and then they go, what am I going to say now?
Yeah. Well, it's like that dirty wee secret comedians have, spoiler alert, where like they'll write in the back of their hands wee bullet point words.
Right.
And like I'll walk into work the next day forgetting I've written on the back of my hands. There's all sort of grotesque things written on the back of it. And my American boss is looking at me like, why is the word cunt written on the back of your hand there? That's like, you don't want to know. You don't want to know.
That's like cheating on a test at school, isn't it? It's just the equivalent, really, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Which never did. But
what material then? What type of material do you gravitate towards? What sort of observations do you go? I like that. I'm gonna do something about that.
Yeah, I think at the start I really gravitated towards like I've been in a relationship for a long time, like 7 years. I've been dating my girlfriend from I was like 18, and like I've grew up with like my mum was a twin, lots of girls around the house and stuff like that. Like I've always been around women, sort of thing, not in like a sort of I'm the man sort of way. I just always like grew up with women and stuff like that. Like I remember like at Christmas asking for Barbies and all, because all the girls are playing for them, and Halloween and one dress up. So which always gravitated towards like observations about women, which in this day and age is a 25-year-old straight white male, brave thing to fucking go out and do in the world of stand-up comedy. But fun stuff, like if I'm going on like a date to the Galgorm, like her experience of being there is completely different to my experience being there. She's sitting there being like, I'll take a wee free glass of Prosecco, and I'm sitting there being like, definitely going to get charged for that in the fucking credit card sort of thing.
You're a big thing about getting conned, aren't you?
I am.
You know what I mean?
How much is that glass of Prosecco? Over $5. You can take that back.
That's Lambrini in that glass. I know it's Lambrini.
Yeah. Oh, if you see me rocking up to the Galgorm, there's tins in the back. 100%.
Just see you going at the bar counting out the 2p, for a pint or whatever.
Is it contactless? Is it fuck contactless?
But male-female dynamics is something that is just... It's a great thing to do in stand-up comedy, and it works so well in television. It works so well in films, romantic comedies, for example, sitcoms like Friends. There's so much at work with the male-female dynamic, and it's getting more and more complicated as the years have gone on, isn't there? So there's so much abundance of material there, and then when you do material like that, you're going to get couples in the audience, and they're going to relate to it, aren't they?
And people are knows that's me, that's you. Like I have a bit at the minute where I talk about like getting asked trick questions that like. Typically, men don't ask trick questions because we know women are too brutally honest. We don't want the answer to the question.
They're too smart. They just know. They're women are better at tricking men than men can't trick women.
Like so, we get asked trick questions all the time. One of the classics is like, you're ready to go out. I think this is. It may not be the funniest bit in the world, but I think it's clever. Women will go, "Does this outfit make me look fat?" And you could say anything to them. You go, "I didn't even see you coming down the stairs. When you turned sideways, you disappeared." No matter what. See, as soon as you look at that woman, you've acknowledged you might be fat right now. And it's taken 2023 years for anyone to figure that out. But the men of the world, you can have that one free now. If you get asked, just say no and keep looking where you're looking.
Don't even look in their direction. It's like looking in the sun, is it?
Yeah. As soon as she's looked, she's gone, you think I might look fat right now? Do you know what I mean?
So you just, but that's from experience. You know the crack, don't you? You should do a guide, the Sean McAleavey guide to how to speak to women.
Imagine the branding on that. My girlfriend you should like, no, he doesn't. He hasn't a clue. My own mother would be like, this boy, he thinks he's something now. He's lost the plot.
I just imagine you selling the book at the top of the podcast.
The Woman Whisperer.
So whereabouts did you grow up in Newry then?
Bestbrook.
Right, Bestbrook.
The Millvale Arms, or the Pit as it's famously known.
So then what school did you go to?
I actually went to the Albee Grammar, and I went to St Peter's Primary, so in Clougharay, and then went to the Albee. I was the only boy in my school.
Because the way I was asking you was, and this is the typical Newry thing is, when you get, especially if you name like McAleavey, the second nature Newry person in you goes, what McAleavey?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because this Newry is full of McAleaveys, isn't it?
Courtney Hill, for anyone wondering. This is
that's where
the original.
Where the origins of the McAleavey story started.
Yeah. So, I grew up in Bestbrook, lived there my whole life. Then went to the Albee Grammar. I was the only one from a school that went. I was the only boy. Like, literally knew nobody in secondary school. I remember chatting down, talking to the principal, and he was like, is there anyone you want in your class? And I was like, nope, just don't know anybody. And I think that was probably a good insight into me sort of taking, not following the course of like everyone from where I went to St. Paul's, and it's a great school, fantastic school, but my dad had went to the Albee. I was like, I want to go there and try something different, Yeah.
And when you were growing up in school then, was there anyone that sort of influenced you comedy wise? Because as it Newry, it's just full of characters, isn't it, from top to bottom? I mean, I have encountered, because people ask me all the time, who's Taxi Joe based on and all. He's not based on anyone, but it's a collection of all these brilliant characters I've met over the years. Is there anyone over, when you're in school or whatever, that you've, that inspire, that just go, right, this guy's a laugh, you know what I mean?
I don't even think there is. I think, like, me with school, I wasn't great with school at all. Like, I went through school and really under the radar. Like, no teachers would walk past me and go, oh, Sean McAleavey. I left school after 1 year of A-levels. I got my results back and was like, there's no one pulling these results up next year. Like, these are absolutely doomed, these A-levels. Yeah. And I remember leaving the school, and I think it was the first day we were meant to start back. I was like, I didn't tell anybody I was leaving, and I just didn't go back. And about a week passed, month passed, and I was like, nobody's called. That sounds actually sad to say it out loud, but nobody called. It was just sort of drifted out. Like, with school, I was very under the radar. But in terms of influences and stuff like that, I don't really think so. I can't remember anyone that really I remember picked it up. My dad would say him. My dad would go, I'm the funny one, you got it from me. And my mum would go, I think he gets it from me. It's that old chestnut.
Maybe both, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember growing up, and there'd be some people that I knew growing up, and I had at the time thought, this person is the funniest person in the world. And then you grow up and you just realise, they were just a buck each. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know tons of people like that.
Yeah.
But even, did you get into any jobs or work after school where you met any characters again that would have influenced you?
I think I left school and then went and worked in my... where did I go to then? I went and did like a sports thing in Belfast. No, not Belfast, man. Newry Tech, actually. Went and did like a sport thing in there. Then I had to start working and stuff like that. And I ended up in the Newry Leisure Centre working as a lifeguard. And you had characters in there, like all sorts of people coming in there. Like, there's probably people listening to this that uses the centre, so I'll speak lightly on it.
But I remember when I used to go to the swimming pool, there used to be people that used to just go there to use the showers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You still would, and like there's so many stories from that place whenever I worked there. The amount of people that would come in and sort of... The problem we have in Newry is everyone's a chancer, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
So everyone's coming in, and the new facility they had was fantastic. Hot tub and saunas and steam room, and these things cost money. It's a wee bit extra to go in. Everyone just comes in. I'm only going for a shower. Next thing they jump in the pool. Thought you were only going for a shower. Next thing they're trying to get a jacuzzi bath. And these sorts of people, like, which I always find entertaining, because how far are those guys willing to go?
I used to go to the swimming pool, and there was this guy there every day, and he was wearing these swimming trunks, and they were like footballer shorts from like the 1920s. You know what I mean? They were near like 3/4 length.
NBA
you know
shorts, like a proper
massive shorts. Yeah. And he would swim like from the bottom to the top, and it would take him about a half an hour to do one length. Mm-hmm. And there was just like this brown rim of dirt around him as he floated along, and as he floated up the pool, there was just this mass exodus of people just swarming to get away from around him, so he just had the whole pool to himself because nobody wanted to be anywhere near him. Do you know what I mean?
We had one guy that would come in, and the code name for him was Black Hawk Down. As soon as you walk past reception, you go Black Hawk Down over. We all had radios. You carried radios to talk to each other in your lifeguard. And the gist of it was he'd come in and he'd go into the steam room until he passed out. He was like in his 80s or so, like an elderly man. And you'd think logic would say, let's stop letting him in there.
Aye.
But you couldn't because there was
So he must have looked like Hans Moleman or something, did he?
It's just shriveled.
Yeah, like a prune.
Yeah. You just go in there and you'd be like, 15 minutes, he's going to go down any minute. And you'd have to leave someone in there sweating but looking at him. And you just go, hit the floor. And everyone go, Black Hawk Down. All the lifeguards sprinting in to get him out of there.
Operation Black Hawk Down.
Yeah.
Well, Swampy still work there, does he?
No, not anymore, no.
Because he was a big swimmer and all. I remember him from years ago. He used to work in the canal court and I used to see him all the time from working on McCoy's, and he was a character, great guy, and he's a great swimmer. He was a big lifeguard in Newry swimming pool, but he's not there anymore.
No, I don't think so. It was a lot of the new brigade that sort of came in whenever I was working there, because you would have had all the characters like the O'Hagans and stuff with Mary and people like that. Great influence and stuff like that.
So when you're doing a stand-up routine, what do you learn from an audience?
Good question. That bit's not funny, probably. Is the first one. No,
what happens then? Say you're up on stage, you do your thing, and you've got this cool thing in your head, and it just doesn't land. What do you do then? You quickly move on, or
it depends. It depends on the night. Sometimes you can address and go, well, that's not staying in, and people might get a wee laugh at it and stuff like that, or you'll just double down and go, well, you might not get next bit, and you just kind of back yourself to get them back. It depends, because with my style of comedy, it's not like I don't do one-liners, and if a one-liner doesn't land, there's just definitely sense, because the comedian's almost giving you, they have to take a second or two to let you laugh, and if you don't laugh, the silence is twice as loud. Whereas with my material, if it doesn't land, I can almost jump on into the next bit and sort of keep the night sort of moving along. But it hasn't been happening as much since I've started. Like when you start, you go through a lot of that, and now you sort of build the idea of like what is a joke, and sort of the same sort of like wee tricks you can put into places and things like that. Like you have the tricks to get out of jail with it now. You build that skill. Like with comedy, the first time you die on your ass is always the worst, because you don't know what to do. It's the first time you've ever experienced it. You're just sitting there going like, how do I handle this? But now I can sit there and go, right, we've seen this before. They don't like it. Might not be the same thing, but it's a different bit, and we'll know how to get our way out of it.
Such a key component to stand-up comedy's confidence, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like if you go up on stage with X material, right, and you haven't the right demeanor, and you haven't any confidence, and you're nervous, and the audience can tell you're nervous, and versus somebody who's got exactly the same material, but they're full of confidence and they're full of energy on stage. Person A could get 0 laughs, and person B they could be laughing at them all night, couldn't they? Like,
yeah. Well, this is the interesting thing now, and what's great about Newry is you're getting more comedians. Like you've got Darren Matthews, who's been doing brilliant, doing arena shows recently. You've Liam McCoo, who's just absolutely hilarious. I've come into the fold now, doing a wee bit more. We've got another guy, Stephen Campbell, that's been getting into the scene, like a brand new open micer. And
Stephen Campbell, he was helped out with Taxi Joe last year when we were He was in a couple of episodes as well.
So he's got into the comedy world now as well, and I think it's that sort of thing of like, what's great about it is I've seen other people do it. I've seen Darren do it, and I can take inspiration from it. Maybe Stephen see me doing it, and Darren do it and goes, right, well, I can do it now. There's other people doing it, but none of us could do the material each other do, and we're all in the same place.
No, exactly. Which
is I always just find so fascinating.
Yes. I think Stephen too, he's got the confidence, hasn't he? You can see it in him. I mean, somebody said to me he would be a stand-up, I would go, I can see that.
Well, he's got that great thing about him where I remember talking before he did stand-up, and he was such a fan of stand-up where he could almost not critique people, but he goes, there wasn't really a bit in that for that person tonight, and I'm like, you get it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people look at it and go, well, it's just getting up and chatting shite and, giving it a go and telling funny stories. And you're like,
no.
You have no idea.
No.
You have no idea what goes into it. Like,
yeah. There's so much. And then, you learn how to develop a rhythm to telling your jokes, and then your jokes evolve over time then. They could start off as a wee small part of your act, and then they can grow into something bigger in the act, can't they? Over the course of a period of time.
Well, there's something really nice about, I think, you start with a bit, and then maybe it gets shelved after a while. You didn't really like it, and then a couple of months later, a year later, you go, actually, I've got a new spin on that now. Maybe we can add it. And that just comes from, for me, I think I've been doing stand-up 2 years now, just experience. The more experience you get, the more you go, actually, that was a good idea. You'll get a brilliant saying, I love at the open mic level, you get to go, I've this great bit, but I just haven't wrote the punchline. That's not a bit then. There's no punchline at the end of the thing. You've done that. Yeah. You've got a premise there is all you really have.
Yeah. Then with your podcast, is that an opportunity for you to sort of try material, or do you keep material off the podcast?
I keep material off the podcast because you're not getting I'm telling you, there's nothing like performing in front of a live audience and getting instant feedback. Even if it doesn't go well or you don't have a good time in front of them, there's nothing like the live audience. With the podcast, it's more so that kind of our theme is like that story of us bonding together over time, doing stand-up, giving people a glimpse of what it's like to be a stand-up comedian, reacting to things in the news. And sometimes you do get though like an ideal spark, or you'll say a bit like the thing about chatting about trick questions and stuff like that. It's a bit of my routine now. We were chatting about earlier. That came from me talking to the podcast, and the boys almost goes, "See you, stop talking about that. Cut that out of this week's episode. Do that on stage." See how that goes. Because there's a real problem when you put something out online and say it, and people have seen it. You lose that element of surprise.
Yeah, and then you don't want your material out, because if people have seen it before and then they go and see it again, it loses the spark it has then, doesn't it?
Well, I think half the psychology behind a joke is someone saying something that you didn't expect them to say. Like, there's nothing funnier than knowing what I was going to say. The whole point didn't get you a reaction. You'll either laugh, be shocked, or just think, what the hell's this guy doing right now? So the anatomy of a joke is saying something you didn't expect someone to say. So if you've seen exactly what I'm about to say right now, you also lose the magic of this all seems scripted and this isn't real, and he said this before. And
and it doesn't feel spontaneous. Yeah. So when you're working on stage, then do you involve the audience much?
Yeah, I love involving the audience. It is probably one of the top 2 favorite things I do with stand-up comedy. See, MCing, comparing and stuff like that, chatting to people. That's where I really get like my kicks from. I love it, just because you get to meet such different variety of people. Like the people that go to comedy shows, you don't look at someone on the street and go, "Oh, they love comedy." Then you never know. You can get all sorts in. You can get all sorts in. And
but it's even similar with some of the performers as well. Like there's some people you wouldn't think would be stand-up comedians, and then you go and see them and they're brilliant.
Yeah. Well, this is it too. Like, but with just chatting to the audience, I think you just get that raw, instant sort of, let's try and make this funny, because you can lead people a wee bit with bits of crowd work and stuff like that. But for the most part, it is just pure spontaneity. What do you do for work? They tell you a wee bit about the job, and you just build it out from there and get to know them. And there's something nice about making a wee bit of contact with someone sometimes.
Especially if they deserve it.
In front of their mates as well is always nice. Because there's people that go for that. There's people that go to comedy shows being like, "I want R. Davey." I've got messages before going, "R. Davey's going tonight. Can you turn into him? Like, he did this, he's done that. Tell me his deepest, darkest secrets." And I'm like, I'm not going to bring that up tonight. I know this man's going to go through a divorce if I bring these things up tonight. Like,
so when do you ever test your material out on people then before you go on stage?
I'm laughing because if my girlfriend's listening to this, she's like, "Yeah, he does." And she is there's no one that'll find you more unfunny, I think, than your own partner.
Yeah.
Because they're used to all your shit.
They've
heard it all.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's your best audience then, isn't it? I mean, if you make her laugh, you could probably make anyone laugh.
Well, this is it. I've ran bits past her before, and she goes, she wouldn't be who I would describe as a comedy fan. She's known me since before I even did stand-up, which is an interesting dynamic on its own. Like, she even hit me. I was playing Gaelic football, love tight fit jerseys and all this here crack, and now I'm some fella that thinks he's funny and gets on stage and tells joke. I don't play football anymore. Yeah. So she's experienced this whole change throughout the 7 years we've known each other, 8 years we've known each other. And when I run bits by her, God love her, like, she'll just look at me and she'll go, "That's shite." Sometimes. And there's nothing as a comedian more heartbreaking than someone you curse so deeply.
But that's great though, isn't it? It develops a thick skin for performing, doesn't it?
Well, I'll also testify as well. Sometimes she's wrong.
Why do you think comedy is taken off in this country?
Because people are funny.
The best no, it is. It's in our DNA. It's in our culture, isn't it? It's the crack here for the pubs. Everywhere you go, even family get-togethers, just people love telling stories and telling jokes, having a bit of crack, don't they?
Yeah. Like the guys that are at that top level aren't there by any sort of mistake whatsoever. Like the guys that are selling out arenas deserve to be selling out arenas. And I think what's great about people here is they recognise the people that deserve to be where they're at. I don't think there's not many people in this country that have gotten somewhere without really having to work for it or deserve it or that sort of carry on. I think the guys at that top level that I look up to, inspire to, have just done so much to build a good, healthy scene, and they've done all the shit you could imagine in terms of bad gigs, weird gigs, going in pubs where people didn't want them, and they just worked on their craft and kept it going. And it's a testament to them, because it would have been very easy from the quit, because it wasn't always I guess. It didn't always have big arena shows, nice rooms to go into, people giving them attention, you know.
It's a podcast thing and social media, all that's, even at work. I work in the film industry, and you go to work, and the thing everybody talks about is podcasts. They don't talk about films, you know, and they work in the film industry. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it used to be a weird thing. I remember with podcasts. I don't know what your opinion was when I first heard it. It was kind of like, it would have been a weird thing someone listened to a podcast.
I got into them really, really early and then stopped, because I was a massive fan of Ricky Gervais.
Yes, that was the first big one that everyone sort of got into.
Carl Pilkington and Stephen Merchant. I was into the XFM shows then, because I was like an office nut. And they'd on a radio show then, and I just decided to listen to it on. You could stream it on the XFM website, and it was just their radio show. I was listening to it, and I was like, this is the funniest thing ever. Yeah. And I was just, anytime I was doing work or on the computer or whatever, I was just had it on the headphones, and you would click the link and you would listen to, you know. And then when they moved away from the XFM radio show, then they started a podcast. And I think they were definitely the first big podcast, really. I think they were even well before Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think Joe Rogan went early as well, but he wouldn't have been doing it to that sort of level that they were doing it on.
Yeah, he was like 2008, 2009. They were like 2004 or something. Yeah. It was like nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they just stopped doing it. Like, imagine they had kept doing it. You know what I mean?
I know. But I think that's what's great about it. Like, that, I think that XFM series was the first sort of series of time in terms of a radio platform that nobody intervened what those guys wanted to talk about. They were free to talk what they wanted to. I think that's what really gravitated people towards it.
The thing about why Carl Pilkington worked so well in them XFM shows was because of the innocence of him, you know. He didn't realise he was this comedy genius. He was probably, I would argue, he's probably the funniest person I've ever heard in radio. He was so funny. But he didn't realise it. And he had all these old stories of growing up in Manchester and all. And the great thing about it is he had Ricky Gervais then as a foil, you know, to wind him up all the time. And then because it was just a small radio show and it wasn't the podcast yet, Ricky didn't really want to be there, you know what I mean? And he was just coming in, messing about, and, you know, he's jumping on Carl, rubbing his head and doing all sorts of mad stuff. And I said that seems to have given birth to the whole podcast thing, hasn't it?
Well, that's what's so good about it. At the point I kind of want to home in on is, it's like, from my idea of media, you probably know more about this than I do, is there's a lot of editing and writing, and you can't say this, you can't say that, and I don't think this is a good idea. With the podcast and the new forms, the creator is the producer, the editor, the everything of it. So if they think it's fine to say and they want to say it, there's nothing stopping them.
But there's something in that, isn't there? There's something in the fact that something you've created is purely yours and you put it out. And, you know, I work in the film industry, and, you know, you go into a film set, it's just people everywhere. The
thing I like about it is I've stood by YouTube. The test of time, YouTube will be there, because the best thing about it is it's a search engine.
Yeah.
The search engine to search something on your TV is a nightmare.
You've
got to scroll through, you get a channel, you know, you get the channel guide up and you're scrolling through and you're hoping you find something where if I know straight away what I want to watch on the phone, there it is, live.
And you could see with YouTube, nobody's gonna surpass Google in terms of optimizing for search, so it's always going to be there effectively, isn't it?
100%.
So it's going to be interesting to see the future of media or whatever, but whatever happens, you know, with stand-up comedy, I see that going from strength to strength. And thanks very much for coming in today. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great crack. I hope to see you soon sometime, so whenever you're playing, wherever, Sunflower or you know, Lavery's, whatever, call down, give you a shout, watch, support the Newry network and our assault of taking over Belfast.
No, thanks very much for having me on. It's a great thing you have here. It's class. It's good to see the local Newry people getting on and getting a shout, and it's a fantastic platform. So thanks very much for having me on.
No problem. Until next time, see you after.